Hi everyone. Welcome to Tax Guru YouTube channel. This is CA Rohanar Pingle, practicing chartered accountant based in Mumbai, also partner in Motilal and Associates LLP, member firm of Marks Network. Welcome to GST Relearn series part 3. In first and second part, we had studied important definitions under GST, supply under GST, and then in second part, we had studied charge of GST. And now in today's video, we are going to learn place of supply under GST. So let's dive into it. Let me allow to share my screen. Place of supply. What we are going to learn today. We are going to learn today section 10, section 11, section 12, section 13, section 14, and section 14A. So section 10 talks about place of supply of goods other than import, export. Section 11 talks about place of supply of goods, import and export. Section 12 talks about place of services, location of both supplier and recipient in India. Section 13 talks about place of supply of services, either supplier or recipient outside India. Then section 14 talks about special provision for OIDAR services, that is online information database access and retrieval. Section 14A talks about special provision for online money gaming from outside India. So this is summary of what we are going to learn today. So let's start with it. The concept of place of supply is crucial in determining the nature of transaction, whether it is intrastate or interstate supply. Intrastate means within the state, and interstate supply means between the state. Intrastate, for example, within Maharashtra state, or we can take example of interstate supply means between the two states, that is between Maharashtra and Gujarat. Okay, the concept of place of supply is why crucial? It is crucial in determining the nature of transaction, whether it is intrastate or interstate supply, and consequently whether CGST plus SGST or UTGST or IGST will apply. Correct? Whenever transaction taken place intrastate, that is within the state, then CGST plus SGST or UTGST levied, and when transaction taken place interstate, that is between two states, for example Maharashtra and Gujarat, then IGST will be levied. Okay, that is the crucial part of that why place of supply is important. Let's see the importance one by one. Determines which type of GST is applicable. Correct? We have just gone through IGST or CGST plus SGST or UTGST. Essential for determining the jurisdiction and tax credit flow. Essential for determining jurisdiction and tax credit flow. Wrong place of supply may lead to wrong tax payment and denial of ITC. This is very, very much important. Wrong place of supply will lead to wrong tax payment and consequently denial of ITC. Let's start with section 10, place of supply of goods other than import or export. This section applies when both the supplier and recipient are located, both supplier and recipient are located within India, and the supply involves movement, installation, or specific delivery terms. This section, that is section 10, applies to applies when both the supplier and recipient are located within India and the supply involves movement, installation, or specific delivery terms. First part under section 10. Section 10, subsection 1, clause A talks about supply involving movement of goods. Okay. Section 10, subsection 1, clause A talks about supply involving movement of goods. Place of supply is the location where movement of goods terminates for delivery to the recipient. Very important. Please note down. Place of supply is the location where movement of goods terminates for delivery to the recipient. Where movement of goods terminates for delivery to the recipient is what place of supply. Movement can be by supplier, recipient, or third party. So on movement, there is no any requirement. Supplier can move the goods, recipient can move the goods, or third party. So movement can be anyone by supplier, recipient, or third party. Example: a supplier in Punjab saying goods to B, buyer in Delhi, goods are moved to Delhi. Place of supply will be Delhi. Understood? A supplier in Punjab saying goods to B, buyer in Delhi. Goods are moved to Delhi. It's from Punjab to Delhi, and where delivery terminates at in Delhi. So place of supply will be Delhi. Ensures tax reaches the consumption state. Ensures it what ensures tax reaches the consumption state. So Delhi will collect that tax. Okay. Should I have taken the example also to give you the simple, very easily understandable way. Okay. Next, section 10, subsection 1, clause B. Build to ship to model. What is that? Build to ship to model. In this first section in clause A, we have seen supply involving movement of goods. Now in clause B, it is build to ship to model. Place of supply in that case is the principal place of business of the person who orders the delivery. In build to ship to model, place of supply is the principal place of business of the person who orders the delivery. Let's see the example. C in Chennai places an order with D to deliver goods to E, that is in Mumbai. Then place of supply here will be Chennai and not Mumbai. In first case, there are only two parties involved. Okay, and therefore A to B, goods are moving from A state in supplier in Punjab to B, and the delivery terminates at Delhi. So place of supply will be Delhi. Here it what in build to ship to model, three parties involved, namely C, D, and E. C places an order with D, that is in Delhi, to deliver the goods to E in Mumbai. So place of supply will not be Mumbai, but place of supply will be Chennai, because in build to ship to model, place of supply is the principal place of business of the person who orders the delivery. So who orders the delivery in the example C, that is in Chennai. So place of supply will be Chennai. It avoids dual taxation between ordering and delivery location. Build to ship to model avoids dual taxation between ordering and delivery location. Let's move further. Clause C, section 10, subsection 1, clause C, supply not involving movement. In clause A, movement of goods. Clause D, build to ship to model. Clause C, supply not involving movement. These goods will not be moved. Let's see what is the place of supply. Place of supply in that case, location of goods at the time of delivery to the recipient. Location of goods at the time of delivery to recipient. Let's see by example. You will understand better. Sale of old plant. Sale of here old plant. Sale of old plant means goods are not moving. Sale of old plant at the factory site in Gujarat. Buyer takes possession on site. Buyer takes possession on site. Place of supply would be Gujarat. Okay, where is the factory old plant is situated? In Gujarat only. Sale of old plant at the factory site in Gujarat. Buyer takes possession of on site. So place of supply would be Gujarat. Because place of supply is the location of the goods, that is location of the plant at the time of delivery to the recipient. So buyer takes the delivery or possession, we can say, on site at Gujarat. So place of supply would be Gujarat. So clause C talks about supply not involving movement. Okay. Next clause. Clause CA, section 10, subsection 1, clause CA talks about supply to unregistered person. Supply to whom? Unregistered person. In that case, place of supply is the address of recipient recorded in the invoice. If not available, then supplier location will be place of supply. There are two scenarios in this. Okay, we are talking about clause CA, supply to unregistered person. In that case, place of supply is the address of the recipient recorded in the invoice, that is in tax invoice. If not available, that address, if not available, then place of supply will be supplier's location. Let's see example. Retail sale at a store to walk-in customer with no address provided. In that case, place of supply will be store's location. Understood? When you went into the retail shop, you purchased some clothes, okay, and you have not provided address to the seller. So in tax invoice, the address of yours not recorded. So place of supply will be the seller's place of location. Seller's place, that is store's location, will be place of supply. So that is the example. Retail sale at a store to walk-in customer, like unregistered customer, walk-in customer with no address provided. Place of supply would be store's location. As simple as that, I hope. Clause D, supply involving assembly or installation. What we have studied till this time is movement of goods, build to ship to model. Then clause C talks about not involving movement. Clause C talks about supply to unregistered persons. And now we are talking clause D of section 10, subsection 1, supply involving assembling or installation. In that case, place of supply is the place of installation or assembly. Where that installation or assembly taken place would be your place of supply. Example, installation of industrial boiler at the buyer's premises in Jharkhand, then place of supply would be Jharkhand. Okay, very simple, I hope. Then see clause E, section 10, subsection 1, clause E, supply on board a conveyance. Supply on board a conveyance when you travel on train, on air, or on boat. Okay, place of supply will in that case will be location at which goods are taken on board the conveyance. So whenever the goods are taken on board, that location or that place will be place of supply in case of clause E, section 10, subsection 1, that is supply on board conveyance. Let's see example. Supply of snacks in an aircraft flying from Kolkata to Chennai, goods loaded in Kolkata, and therefore place of supply will be Kolkata. Okay, goods loaded in Kolkata. That is the location at which goods are taken on board the conveyance. The goods loaded in Kolkata, the place of supply will be Kolkata. Okay, these are the 6 clauses we have seen under section 10, subsection 1. That is clause A, clause B, clause C, clause CA, clause D, and clause E. 6 clause we have seen. Okay, just let's revise it in fast. Clause A talks about supply involving movement of goods. Place of supply will be where the goods terminates for delivery. Clause B, bill to ship to model. 3 parties involved. Place of supply will be the person who orders the delivery. Clause C, not involving movement, then location of goods, place of supply will be location of goods at the time of delivery to the recipient. Sale of whole plant, that is the simple example. Clause CA talks about supply to unregistered person. In that case, place of supply would be address of recipient recorded in the invoice, and if not available, then place of supply will be supplier's location. Clause D talks about supply involving assembly or installation. So the place of supply in that case will be place of installation or assembly. And clause E talks about supply board conveyance. Place of supply will be location at which goods are taken on board the conveyance. Okay, clear? I hope you are very much clear till this. Now, move on to section 11. Section 11 talks about place of supply of goods, but import and export. In section 10, it is place of supply of goods other than important goods. Means within India, that is the first line. Both the supplier and recipient will be in India. But now, moving to section 11, place of supply of goods, import and export. Okay, let's start with section 11, clause A, input of goods. Okay, place of supply would be location of the importer. Whenever import of goods, place of supply will be location of the importer. Okay, let's see the example. Goods imported through Mumbai port by importer in Bangalore. Goods imported through Mumbai port by importer in Bangalore. So place of supply will be Bangalore, not Mumbai port. What is the location of the importer? Very much important. Not location where the goods are unloaded. That is on Mumbai port. It is location of the importer. That is in Bangalore. So place of supply will be Bangalore. So section 11 clause 8 talks about input of goods, and it will be place of supply will be location of the importer. Let's move to the next clause, clause B, section 11, export of goods. Place of supply in case of export of goods. Location outside India, that is a destination country. Place of supply, and therefore GST will not be levied. It will come in advanced level when we understand this. Okay. So location will be, because that is the the crucial part. You can say that is the importance of place of supply. It told us whether the GST is leviable or not. So in export of goods, place of supply, location outside India, destination country. So no question of GST leviable. Okay. Example, goods exported from Chennai to Germany. Place of supply, Germany. Because place of supply is location outside India. Always in export of goods, location outside India only. that is place of supply, destination country. In example, goods exported from Chennai to Germany, the place of supply would be Germany. Export is zero rated supply under GST. Please note down this. Export is a zero rated supply under GST. Means actually it is not exempted, it says. It is taxable, but at zero rated. It's taxable, but at zero rated, and therefore it is export is a zero rated supply under GST. Please keep this in mind. It is not exempted, but it is a GST is leviable, but at a zero rate. Okay. Now we are moving to section 12. Section 10 talks about supply, place of supply of goods other than import and export. Section 11 talks about place of supply of goods, import and export. That is section 11 clause A, import of goods. Section 11 clause B talks about export of goods. Let's move on to section 12. Place of supply of services. Here, location of both the supplier and recipient in India. Location of both the supplier and recipient in India. Underline this and note down this. We are learning section 12, place of supply of services. Okay, now goods is over. Just recollect what we have studied section 10 and section 11. Section 10 talks about place of supply goods other than import and export. Under that, we have learned 6 clauses. Clause A, Clause B, Clause C, Clause CA, Clause D, and Clause E. And in section 11, we learned 2 clauses, Clause A and Clause B. Okay, let's move on to section 12. Place of supply of services. Location of both the supplier and recipient in India. Okay. Section 12, subsection 2, default rule. What is the default rule? Means whenever our case is not covered under the below what we are going to see in the other subsections, then the default rule comes into the play. That is subsection 2, section of section 12. That is registered recipient. Place of supply will be location of recipient. Registered in case of 2 scenario, under that registered, if registered recipient is there, then place of supply will be location of recipient. And in case of unregistered recipient, place of supply will be address on record, otherwise supplier's location. Otherwise supplier's location. Like same in the goods under where in case of unregistered recipient, address is not mentioned on the tax invoice. In that case, that is store's example. Then retail store example, where the store's place of address will be treated as a place of supply. The same way, the default rule of section 12, subsection 2, under the place of supply of services, where both the supplier and recipient in India, in case a registered recipient, then place of supply is a location of recipient. But in case of unregistered recipient, place of supply will be address on record. But if it is not available, then supplier's location will be place of supply. Let's move on to next subsection 3, section of subsection 12. Services related to immovable property. Services related to immovable property. Place of supply is location of immovable property. Very simple. Section 12, subsection 3 talks about services related to immovable property, and the place of supply, that case will be location of immovable property, where it is situated. Let's see example. Legal service for land in Calcutta, land in Kerala. So place of supply would be Kerala, because land, where is land is situated in Kerala. So the place of supply would be, of course, it is Kerala. Next, section 12, subsection 4. Restaurant, catering, fitness, and personal grooming services. Place of supply, location where services are actually performed. services are actually performed. Let's see an example. If you are went to the saloon and you have availed your grooming services, then the place of supply in that case would be where services is performed is that place of supply of saloon. Same case in restaurant. Whenever you go in a restaurant, you eat there. So services of providing the food is performed in a restaurant. Place of supply would be the location of a restaurant. Okay, that is the subsection 4 of section 12. 3 talks about services in case of immovable property. 4 talks about restaurant, catering, fitness, and personal services. Location, place of supply will be location where services are actually performed. Next, subsection 5 of section 12, training and performance appraisal services. Training and performance appraisal services. Here, two scenarios, registered and unregistered. So in case of registered, place of supply will be, of course, a recipient location. In case of services to unregistered persons, then place of supply will be location of service performance. Means you have to keep in mind that whenever there is an unregistered person, the place of supply would be the location of service provider. But in this case, where the training and performance appraisal, location of service performance would be the place of supply because unregistered person. Here we can say like in restaurant and catering and fitness personal grooming services, place of supply is directly whether you are registered or unregistered. Place of supply would be location where services are actually performed. But in training and performance appraisal, they have two scenarios. If there is a registered recipient, then the place of supply will be recipient's location. Of course, the service is performed at there only, but if the service is performed where the person is recipient is unregistered, then place of supply in that case is not location of the service provider, but the location where the service is actually performed. It's a recipient actually, we can say. But many of the times, not recipient location, but it can be performed at where hall is rented out and there is a training is given. So that particular address or that particular location would be your place of supply. Very not much confusing, but if you study peacefully, you will be able to grasp it. Then next, subsection 6 of section 12 talks about admission to events. Okay. We have went through default rule, that is section 12 subsection 2. Then services related to immovable property, place of supply will be location of immovable property. In case of restaurant, catering, fitness, grooming, place of supply will be location where services are actually performed. In training and performance appraisal, there are two scenarios. Registered, then place of supply will be recipient's location. Unregistered, place of supply will be, of course, location of services performance. Okay. Now move on to next subsection 6 of section 12 talks about admission to it. Place of supply will be place where event is actually held. Wherever event is actually held, the place of supply will be that location of the event. Simple. Admission to events. Place of supply will be place where event actually held. Okay. Move on to the next. Subsection 7 of section 12. Organization of events. 6 talk about admission to the events, and now a service of organizing the events. Then in that case, registered recipient, place of supply will be recipient's location. If unregistered recipient, place of supply will be place where event is held, that is actually performed, okay, where the event is held. So 12.6 talks about admission to events, and 12.7 talks about organizing of events. In case of admission to events, place of supply will be the place where event is held. No two scenarios register on it. But in case of organization of event, in case of service of organizing of events, that is event manager in most of the cases, If the recipient is registered, then place of supply would be recipient's location. In case of unregistered recipient, then place of supply would be place where event actually is. Move on to the subsection 8 of section 12. Transportation of goods. Service is about transportation of goods. If, again, two scenario, registered recipient, place of supply would be recipient's location. In case of unregistered, place of supply would be where goods are handed over. Okay, where goods are handed over. Means goods transported from city A to city B, and the goods handed over in city B. Then if the recipient is unregistered, then place of supply would be where goods are handed over, that is city B. And also if the in city B the recipient is registered, then also the that recipient registered recipient's location would be the place of supply, that is city B. To understand simply, I take the same example. Okay, but the both scenario we have. So subsection 8 talks about transportation of goods. Move on to next subsection 9, that is section 12. Subsection 9 talks about passenger transportation services. Okay, passenger transportation services. If, again, two scenario, recipient is registered, then place of supply will be recipient's location. And if it is unregistered, then place of supply where the passenger embarks. Okay, here not the where the passengers got down. Okay, where the passenger embarks would be the place of supply. Means if any passenger embarks in city Mumbai and got down at city in Gujarat, then place of supply would be where passenger embarks, that is Mumbai, in case of unregistered recipient case. Okay, understood? Hope you are very much clear about all this concept we are today learning, and tried to bring out this concept in a very lucid and simple language to understand. I hope I'm serving you. So keep watching this video series under GST. We are going to cover whole GST. So keep watching. If you are not yet watch part 1, part 2, so don't directly come out to this. First, please watch part 1, part 2 of GST Relearn series. You can search GST Relearn series on Tax Guru YouTube channel. Okay, so learn sequence wise. So you will be easily grasp every concept of this GST. You will practically take that, practically you can impart that in your day-to-day activities. So, okay, let's move on to the next subsection 10 of section 12. Services on board a conveyance. Like goods on board a conveyance, we have learned. Okay, where goods are taken on the board will be the place of supply. Here, services on board a conveyance. So, what will be the place of supply? First schedule point of departure of conveyance. First schedule point of departure of conveyance. Okay, means if it is from Mumbai to Delhi, and in between also it is a hauled at Gujarat, but services on a board of conveyance, place of supply would be the Mumbai. So first schedule point of departure of the conveyance will be Mumbai. Example we have just taken. So services on board of conveyance, place of supply will be first scheduled point of departure of conveyance, not where services actually perform. Understood? That is the difference. In case of goods on a board of conveyance, wherever goods are wherever goods are taken on the board will be the place of supply in that case. And here, first scheduled point of departure of conveyance will be the place of supply. Subsection 11 of section 12, telecommunication service. Place of services varies based on prepaid or postpaid usage and billing. Here it is not specific. It is varied based on the prepaid or postpaid usage and billing. So in postpaid usage and billing, the address mentioned on bill will be the place of supply. Okay. Next, subsection 12 of section 12, banking and financial services. Place of supply will be location of recipient on records. If not available, supplier's location. Simple, it is same as that of we have learned just before under the goods. Place of supply would be location of recipient on records in case of banking and financial services. Location of recipient on the records if not available in supplier's location. Means as a customer, you availed lot of services from the banks, okay, on mutual funds like the financial services. Then in that case, place of supply for them would be the your location of residence, your address on record, on their record will be the place of supply. But if it is not available, then the place of supply will be their address, that is supplier's location, wherever that banking branch office is situated. So that is the case. Now move on to the subsection 13 of section 12, insurance services. This is the last subsection, section 12, that we are going to learn, that is providing of services where location of both a supplier and a recipient in India. What is 13? Insurance services. Same, if registered recipient, place of supply will be recipient's location. In case of unregistered place of supply will be the recipient's address on records. What in case of insurance services, place of supply in case of registered recipient is recipient's location, and in case of unregistered, even though the place of supply will be recipient's address on records. As simple as that. Nothing major difference in both the scenarios. In case of first one, recipient's location that is registered. In case of unregistered, recipient's address will be on the records of the supplier of the service. Okay. Let's glance through what we have studied. Total 13. 12.2 talks about default rule. 12.3 talks about immovable property. Then 4 talks about restaurant, catering, fitness, personal grooming. 5 talks about training and performance appraisal. 6 talks about admission to events. 7 talks about organization of events. 8 talks about transportation of goods. 9 talks about passenger transportation services. 10 talks about service on board of conveyance. 11 talks about telecommunication service. 12 talks about banking and financial service. And 13 talks about insurance service. Let's move on to section 13. Place of supply of services. Either supply, where either supplier or recipient outside India. 12 talks about place of supply of services, but supplier and recipient both are situated in India. Section 13 talks about the place of supply of services where either supplier or recipient is outside India. Let's see what it is. Section 13 subsection 2 is a default rule. Place of supply will be in that case means whenever the specific, it is not covered under specific subsection, then the default rule that is 13.2 talks about place of supply is a recipient's location. If not available, then supplier's location. Okay. Default rule, place of supply, recipient location. If not available, then supplier's location. Then section 13 subsection 3 talks about services requiring physical presence. In that case, services performed on goods or individuals. Okay. Then place of supply will be location where services are actually performed. And so whenever that person or that goods are required to complete or to perform that services, that place of supply will be in that case would be location where services are actually performed. Example, photography service provided to UK citizen in Goa. The place of supply will be Goa because it is performed in Goa. Citizen is of UK, but services provided in Goa. One of the recipient is of Equated is a UK citizen, but it is performed in Goa, so place of supply will be services related to immovable property. It is, let's see, in under section 12, it is a location of immovable property in case of where the recipient or provider of the service is out of India, one of the is out of India, then place of supply will be location of immovable property only in or outside India. Okay. In section 12, it is immovable. Where is the immovable property is situated? Let's see. 12, 3, I think. Yes, service related to immovable property. Place of supply will location of immovable property. Here also, place of supply will be location of immovable property in or outside India. Anything. Admission or to or organization event, it is combined here. In section 12, it is two separate. Okay. But in under section 13, it is clubbed. That is admission to or organization event. Place of supply will be location where event is actually held. 13(6) talks about subsection 6, where both the supplier and recipient are outside India. Section 13, subsection 6, please note down, it talks about where both the supplier and recipient are outside India. Both are outside India. They were not in India. No one of it in India, but both are outside India. Then place of supply will be location of event or property outside India. Location of event or property outside India, where both the supplier and recipient are outside India, and if the location and wherever the location of event or property outside India, it will be the place of supply. Section 13, subsection 7, multiple locations, more than one state or mandate territory. Place of supply will be proportionately among respective states. Please mark it and please note down. In case of multiple locations where more than one state or union territory was, then place of supply will be proportionately among respective state is divided in that ratio. Subsection 8, section 13 talks about special categories. Banking, intermediary, and OIDR services. Place of supply will be supplier's location. Here in section 12, there are two scenarios, register and register. But here, we'll get a banking, intermediary, and OIDR service. Place of supply is supplier's location. 9, subsection 9 of section 13 talks about transportation of goods cross-border. Transportation of goods cross-border. Place of supply will be destination of goods. And it will be treated as export and it will be chargeable at 0 rated. Transportation of goods cross-border. Place of supply will be destination of goods. Subsection 10 of section 13. Passenger transportation cross-border. Place of supply where passenger embarks. We are not again where passenger got down, like destination of goods. In case of transportation of goods cross-border, place of supply will be destination of goods. But in case of passenger transportation cross-border, it is not where passenger got down, but place of supply would be where passenger embarks. Section 13, subsection 11. Services on board conveyance. Services on a board conveyance cross-border. Place of supply will be place of origin of conveyance. Again, where services on board conveyance, in this, where place of supply will be place of origin of conveyance. Place of origin of conveyance. It's first schedule point in case of section 12. Here, origin of conveyance, place of origin of conveyance. Okay. So, in section 13, we have studied subsection 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay. 2 talks about default. If case is not covered with the special subsections, then it will be a default. Okay. Let's move on to the section 40, special provision for OIDR services, that is online information database access and require. Very important section. nowadays very much services are provided online, and in that case deciding on the place of supply is very difficult. So section 14 talks about special provision for YDS services, that is online information database access and requirement. Let's see the place of supply in that case. India, if two or more indicators suggest user is in India, place of supply would be India in this OIDR services if two or more indicators suggest user of that services is in India. It talks about the services and not talks about the goods. So, because it is a service, online information database access and retrieval is what service. Okay, so place of supply is India. Just keep in that place of supply will be India. If two or more indicators suggest user is in India, what are the indicators? Billing address is in India, IP address from India, very much important. Billing address in India, IP address from India, bank or card from India, SIM card issued in India. So if two or more indicators suggest user is in India, then the place of supply would be India. For example, billing address in India, IP address from India, bank or card from India, SIM card issued in India. If supplier outside India must pay, supplier outside India must pay IGST or appoint a representative in India. Means in this case, supplier must pay IGST and or appoint a representative in India to pay the GST. Supplier outside India must pay what? IGST or appoint a or representative in India. Let's see the example. Indian user subscribes to online e-journal hosted abroad. Place of supply would be India. Place of supply would be India. Whenever two or more indicators suggest that user is in India. So these are the Indian users on using the online e-journal hosted on abroad, but users are in India, indicating the users are in India, subscribers are in India. So place of supply would be India in this case. So supplier is outside India, but they have to pay IGST and they have to appoint a representative in India to comply this part. Okay, so just revise it. Section 14, special provision for OIDR services, that is online information database access and retrieval. It talks about place of supply where is India only if two or more indicators suggest users are in India. Section 14A. We are going to last section of today's topic, that is on place of supply. Section 14A. Special provision for online money gaming from outside India. Special provision for online money gaming from outside India. Applicable to games involving money such as online betting, rummy, and poker. Very much nowadays, there are many people playing these games on their mobile. Applicable to games involving money, such as online betting, rummy, poker. Place of supply would be India if recipient is in India. Place of supply would be India if recipient is India. Supplier must register in simplified scheme and pay IGST on supplies made to Indian users. Because of course supplier is outside India, but the recipient of these games, users of these games are situated in India, and therefore place of supply in that case would be India. And supplier has to take register in simplified scheme and pay IGST on supplies made to Indian users. For example, foreign gaming app charges entry fee to Indian user, place of supply will be India. Foreign gaming app charges what entry fee to Indian users when their foreigner need to pay the IGST. Place of supply will be India. Okay, hope you have understood. We have covered everything. Let's see the summary. Section 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 14a. 10 talks about place of supply of goods other than import export. In that, 6 clauses. Clause A, B, C, CA, Clause B, Clause E. Section 11 talks about place of supply of goods, import and export. In that, Clause A and Clause B. Section 12, place of supply of services, where location of both supplier and recipient in India, where we have started from subsection 2 to subsection, I think, 12 to 13. In section 13, place of supply of services, either supplier or recipient outside India. In that, also we have seen section 13, subsection 6, which talks about supplier and recipient both outside India. That the special, we remember that section 13, subsection 6. Then section 14 and 14a related to provide services is section 14, special provision, online information database access and retrieval. Section 14a talks about online money gaming from outside India. Hope you are very much clear about the place of supply concept. Watch this video a number of times unless you understand it. Okay, so let's move on to the conclusions from today's learning. What we conclude is that correct identification of place of supply ensures what it ensures. Correct identification of place of supply ensures right tax, that is CGST or SGST or IGST is levied, right tax is levied, proper ITC is claimed. If your place of supply went wrong, then your ITC will also be denied in the future when assessment going in case of assessment. So avoidance of interest and penalty due to incorrect tax payment. So we can conclude that the correct identification of place of supply ensures right tax is levied, proper ITC is claimed, and avoidance of interest and penalty due to incorrect tax payment. Hope you have understand this place of supply concept. We also watch part 1, part 2 is in this GST Relearn video series. If you have not it, if you are directly come to this part, don't directly come to the part 3 and learn, because part 1, part 2 learning in sequence will be beneficial to you. So if you like this video, please click on like, also share your network so that this video will reach to the mass and they will be benefiting. And if you are not yet subscribed to TaxGuru YouTube channel, then do subscribe it to latest updates, and you can also watch video series like that. I'm also conducting 2 more video series on this TaxGuru YouTube platform, that is What Law Says Income Tax Case Laws Based Series and What Law Says GST Case Laws Based Series. So also go through it if you are a professional in a litigation practice. So stay tuned to TaxGuru YouTube channel. See you soon.